Welcome to the Philippine Edu Webinars. Evening everybody. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. This event is in collaboration with QSR Corporation, a Google Cloud and Edge partner in the Philippines, Google Educator Groups, GEG Philippines, and Acer. Tonight's session will help us learn approaches to distance learning. Our speaker is a teacher in the Bay Area of California, USA. Her position is teacher on special assignment, helping immigrate on educational technology. She is also a Google Certified Educator Level 1, Level 2, Google Certified Trainer, and Google Certified Innovator. Please welcome Stephanie Rothstein. Good evening, Stephanie.
Thank you. Good evening for you. Good, very early morning for me here in California.
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be our speaker for the Philippines.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. I would do anything for you, Adrian, and I'm happy to be here and to help others. And we're all in this same
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. So my topic is entitled Shift in Mindset, Approaches to Distance Learning. And really what I have come to realize is that the way that you approach this will shift the way that your students are able to handle it, your families, yourself. And so my hope is that I can share some of the insight and some tips and tricks that I have learned in my time. If others want to follow along, this will take you to my presentation. So my own background, just a little bit. As Adrian mentioned, I am a teacher on special assignment focused on integrating educational technology at my school at Los Gatos High School. But I also chair a project-based learning pathway there and teach 2 English classes. So the project-based learning pathway that I chair integrates English, history, and science. So my students are very much used to doing hands-on projects, connecting things to the real world, and they're used to being together. Our pathway is all about communication and connectedness, and they're in groups. So being in this position is a total shift for me and for my students because everything that we did prior to this wasn't this way. Yes, we used technology, but not in this way, and we weren't separated. And in terms of my own background, we've been on lockdown since March 17th officially. So it's been a few weeks. We did 1 week as a staff of professional development. And then we've been teaching remotely now for 2 full weeks. But we were alerted that we would likely need to shift to something of this nature. So I was in a group that was helping to prepare our school and ourselves for how we would move forward professionally. Okay, so in terms of that was my background for my own remote timeline, but I would say one of the first things that you need to think about is how far in are you and where are you in the process? So one of the things that I've come to realize in my short time, and I learned this actually from listening to a talk that Sandra Chow was a part of, was that as you move forward in your own process, the number of weeks that you're in as a part of being in lockdown and doing this kind of learning, like any kind of teaching, you get better no matter who you are, just through practice. So I think about it almost like years of teaching, and that beginning time is really challenging. And so at the start, I just keep trying to remind myself and others on my staff, it's about not getting overwhelmed and then taking it in a slow and steady fashion so that the more weeks that you're a part of this, you can become more and more confident in your own process. And so my hope is that I share some pieces that will help people to gain confidence, but realize what they can do in a slow and steady rollout to make it feasible. Okay, so some of the essentials that I would say are necessary. The first is to simplify. So if anybody is familiar with the PLC process. That's something quite known here in the US, a professional learning community process. You might be familiar with this term, understanding your need to knows. So there are things that are called your need to knows and your nice to knows, which we'll get to in a minute. But as a teacher, one of the most important things that you can do in this time of preparatory planning is figuring out what are the most important essentials that your students need to know. Because the reality is you're not going to get to everything that you would have gotten to during the course of a regular school year. If you are shifting to remote learning, you are not going to be able to get to every single thing that you had planned before. And that is okay. It is kind of a time where so much is happening in the world around us that, yes, we need some routine, but it cannot be expected that you are going to do every single thing just like you would have done it in your classroom. So one of the things that I did was I shifted the way that even my homepage looked for on our learning management system. So my front screen is very simple. It just looks like this, and I change it by week to help my students. And I also figure out what are the main essential things that they are going to need. So for my English class, we were in the middle of our what I called our service learning project. So students were doing a research paper. They were going out and volunteering places, and they were doing the goal of the project was that they would have at least 15 resources, and it's the most in-depth paper that they do. It takes us most of our second semester. So our second semester goes from January to June. And so we were right in the middle of it in March. So I shifted the dates of the project and what we were doing. And instead of saying that they needed to continue to research more, they were at about 6 resources at that point. I just stopped that and I said, that's enough. And what we're going to be working on over the next few weeks is we're now in the problem section of the paper. Last week, they were working on the intro, and next week they'll work on the solution section. So my goal was to come up with what are feasible chunks that they can do each week. So at my school, the way that we've handled this is at the start of the week, we post what students are doing, the assignments for that week, and those things are due at the end of the week. And then we as teachers also then meet or can have meets with students and go live. And I have chosen to do that. We have 90-minute class periods. We followed that same schedule, at least for right now, but I don't go live for more than 30 minutes. So I help students through this research problem writing and giving feedback in real time. And then the other thing that they're expected to do is continue with their outside reading, which we do. I do an assignment called a book chat. So they're in different groups, and every group has a book related to their topic that they have chosen. And so they'll be continuing to do that and have different discussion groups. That'll be in 2 weeks. But what I really wanted you to see was that I pared down. Normally in a classroom, I would have much more that they would do in person. But for me, it's just not feasible to have them write something that is much longer. So I kept the paper, each part of the paper is now reduced to 1 to 2 pages. It used to be 3 to 4. And that's for their own sanity and mine, so that I actually can still help them learn the skill without being inundated by the amount, the workload, but instead focus on the content and the skill that I wanted them to learn. The next thing is in simplifying your process and actually having a process for them. So one of the things that I have come to understand in my short time is that people are grounded by having a process, and they are calmed through having a process and having protocols for that process. And now that we have shifted to a new system, oftentimes teachers don't have a new process to go with it. Instead, they try to match it to what it was before, and that becomes really confusing for families and for students. So I have shifted to having some new processes for my class, and I want to show you some things that I hope will help you in your own. So one is another innovator, Lauren, who is amazing, has some templates that are wonderful if you are trying to shift your own process. She's using them for her school, and she's made them available and free. And if you're on my presentation and you click here, it'll take you to her site where you can download these for yourself. But this would be something that if you need a process for yourself, if you need something to publish for students that has step-by-step instructions, you can use this and have the same process each time. Another piece that, and this is what I have used, so I use these protocols for my class every time we go live in a Meet. So I will take you, if you click here in my own presentation, it'll open it for you. And these are, I'll just make it easier to see here. These are my protocols that I use when going live with students. And again, as I mentioned, when I go live with my students, I keep it to 30 minutes. And that's my goal, is to keep it to about 30 minutes, no more than that, with my students, because they can become overwhelmed by the technology as well, and by being live constantly in my class and in 2 others during that day. So I try to keep it to approximately 30 minutes. But the protocols that I make them adhere to is making sure that they're using their school email only when going into Meet, that they don't share their screen, they're not sharing the meeting URL. When they're in the Meet, they're using it only for our class purposes, that they follow the norms that are below. If anything went wrong, which it has not, if anything happens, they know that they must log off. I will also remove them if there was a problem. And they know that if they don't adhere to these protocols, that we are not going to be able to hold live sessions. So knowing that my students are in high school, there are a lot of pieces that I have to keep in mind, and I need to have them be responsible for the way that they hold themselves during and conduct themselves during the Meet. My own children are in 4th grade, 3rd grade, and preschool age, and they run live sessions with their classes as well, and their teachers have protocols that they adhere to, and I would say they're very similar, right? It's about listening when the teacher is talking, staying on mute until you're told to unmute yourself, so pieces like that. I also let my students know that the Meets are always recorded, and that after I share out what we have recorded and I put it up on our LMS, our learning management system.
Stephanie,
yes.
There's a quick question from our audience.
Yes.
It's actually Sir Gary Garcia.
Hi, Gary.
His question is, what should be the time allotment for each task, for each subject to be accomplished at home independently, considering there are lots of subjects?
So I love the question. For me, what I have actually tried to do is I think about the time, since I'm in high school and we are on, they call it block schedule at my school. So every class is 90 minutes every other day. And so for me, I try to keep my tasks to being within that allotment, knowing that some students will take longer than that naturally. So I don't want to inundate them beyond my class time with work. So what I try to do is I go 30 minutes live during the class, and then the remaining hours for them to work on my class and ask me any questions that they have. Some students will take longer than that naturally, and that would be their quote homework. But my goal is not to overwhelm them with work. They have reading that they will be doing, but some are faster than others at that. And then I will get to some pieces that if students finish, what they can do with that extra time. Do you think that gets to it, Adrian?
Yeah. There's another one, a follow-up question. Since for a school conducting distance learning for the first time, what do you advise? So should they go for synchronous or asynchronous way of holding classes?
It's a great question. So we have we've been doing both. We, at our school, in our district, our advice was at the start for our teachers that they do a self-assessment. So we had our own rubric. If you'd like, I can link it at the end of this presentation. But we gave our teachers a self-assessment, and basically there were steps 1, 2, and 3. And step 1 was to look at what you have been doing in your own classroom and where you feel in terms of comfort. Do you feel comfortable going asynchronous? And that was at step 1. And then step 2 was starting to have some synchronous opportunities, and same for step 3, but doing them more and more often. And so we did not expect teachers and students right away in week 1 to be fully synchronous. And our families have actually, and our students have said, they like a mixture. They like it to be a balance of both synchronous and asynchronous. So they like work posted so that students are alerted to know what to do, but they like regular meetups where the teacher will go through how to do it, and then be able to take questions or give feedback in live time. So that's been the way, that's what I would recommend, but I don't know that everyone can, unless you are comfortable with the technology, is ready to go full on right away. That in itself can be overwhelming. So I would say it's about taking it in steps, what is working for your school and for your classroom. My students, because we use technology regularly, that was part of our program. I went live on the first day, but it was really more to see them and to say hello and that I missed them and that we would be okay and to do a check-in. And so that's really what it was about. And then we got to how to do the work and for me to answer questions. And I would say that the role of technology really is about helping us stay connected during this time, and allowing us to feel a sense of normalcy, that we see each other, they see their teacher. There is something calming to that. So I try to hold regular meets. It's not the full 90 minutes of my class, but it's for about 30 minutes for each class period. Yeah, no problem. When we do go live, one of the things that's really helped my classes is this part down below, is having students have jobs. So I have about 28 students in each of my class periods. And during that live meet, I will ask one of the students, I'll say, Cole, can you be a welcomer today? And he would be alerted that what he would do is if someone pops in and comes late, he will type in the chat bar and explain to them what we did during the beginning part. I have someone else that will be like your role. I call them the questioner. It could also be the moderator. That would be somebody that if I'm presenting something and I can't see the screen where the chat is, that they would alert me what questions have come up. And they would be the one who would be allowed to unmute themselves. I have someone who is a linker. If I've posted a link that's useful and someone needs it again, that they would repost it. Someone else is a timekeeper and would alert me if we get to a particular time that I've asked them to. And then everyone's expected to take the notes that they would need if we need them during that session, but be prepared to share them out at the end. And those roles have really helped me and helped others to be able to do meets successfully in my class. The next piece, this piece is something I alluded to, I think, with Gary's question. But so I have those essentials, those need to knows, but you're going to have some students that will finish whatever you give them and finish it quickly, and that they are yearning for more. So in my class, we've come up with a choice board, and that choice board is something that is optional. If they finish and they have more time, it gives them options for things that they could do. And I have been very strategic with the kinds of things that I put in my choice board. So they go with the project that we're doing, the unit that we're doing. it isn't something that's a different topic. The idea is that it allows them to deepen the topic that we are currently looking at. So these are the current choices for my students right now for their service learning unit. They can do an additional interview of somebody who is an expert in the topic. They can do more research. They can participate in a podcast challenge and create a podcast. They can figure out how to support a service organization for their topic virtually. This one is one I would recommend for any project that you're doing, which is why I put it in the middle. Organizing a peer review. So having students help to organize a peer review, and I help them organize the date of the meet, and I am there recording it, but they are running it, and students can choose to participate in that peer review. It's outside of my class time. We usually do it at our school during what would be a tutorial or a lunch time, and then students can choose to join. And then the students are given, we give them a peer review document digitally, and then they use that to help them know what questions to be looking at and what pieces to be looking at in the writing of another student. Another one is creating artwork, creating a documentary of some kind, reading a different book, and then conducting a screencast where they would record something to help other students maybe with the technology of this project. So what we tried to do was come up with choices that would not only help students, but would help us as teachers, like what would typically be supplemental workshops that we would offer in the classroom, we then put on the choice board.
Stephanie,
yeah.
another question.
Yeah.
Well, this is from me. With regards to giving options to the students for the tasks that you're giving, how many should they like do in a certain topic? Should
Great
they?
question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when we posted this for our students, so our unit ends, we have about 3 more weeks. I said that students could challenge themselves and try to do 3 or more was what I said. And these again were, so my pathway, we offer students can earn honors or advanced credit within my course. So it's both for those students, they're required to do it, and they can choose if they want to or not during this time. But anyone who has finished, I said, try to do 3 or more. And so my thought would be taking on about 1 of these per week would be something that would be a doable task.
Thanks, Steph.
You're welcome. And then I think this is the main piece really. When I think about what it is that I want during this time, it's about staying connected and how to do it in a way that's really meaningful. And so one of the things that I've come to learn is that you can provide all of these opportunities. You can have a ton of meet sessions set up, but if you are just talking to people, they, like any other live session, if you are just lecturing, they can turn that off. And so it is my job to keep it interactive. So one of the things that I came to learn, and this is an actual screenshot from my class. I took off the piece on the side where it shows you their comments since it had their full names on it. But this was a much longer document. So one of the things that we came to realize was that when we went live, we needed to have something that students were doing in real time. So the first thing that I do in a meet is connect. So we have some way of saying hello. We have some way of gauging where are they. So like my first slide that I shared that was here, where I had the ducks on it, you could use something like this. I've done that in a meet with other innovators where we ask people, how are they feeling today? What's your scale? They could type it. They could say with their hands what their number is. You could go around and ask, but some sort of check-in is necessary at the start. and then I'll get us back to where we are. And then the activity, what you choose to do, has to be something that keeps them connected and interactive. So I can show them something, yes, but then we need to do something with it. So this last class, we were working on the introductions of their paper before, on the problem section of their paper, as I had shown you in my week 2. And so what we did was we had an interactive, a Google Doc that was shared where my students had access to it. And we asked every student, we categorized them by the topics of their paper, and there were 3 other pages of this. And every student in real time came in and put one topic sentence for their problem section, one that they thought was a great example of a topic sentence, and then they answered a question that we had left for them. And then we told students, after they did that, we gave them a few minutes to copy and paste that in, that they would need to read the person in their categories that's the row above theirs. And if they were the top row, they'd go to the bottom. And we walked them through it, and we walked them through how to highlight particular things and make it a comment on their screen. And then we also asked them to give a comment and to say something that they thought that they were doing well, like an accolade. We call those likes in our pathway. We asked them to ask a question. We called those wonders. And then if there was something that needed some additional feedback, they could put that in the comment as well. And we went through those live in class. And then the other piece that we started doing, and I helped another teacher at my school actually do this, came from another innovator, Emma Pass, and she suggested doing live small group meets. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. Is that okay, Adrian? Can I move to doing that one? Okay. So if people are interested in doing this, if this document is linked in my presentation, so you are welcome. I've linked everything there for you so that you can use these docs. You'll just want to make a copy of it so that you can edit it for yourself. So this is the document that you can make a copy of. And if you don't know how to do that, you'll go here to File, Make a Copy. And so I'm going to be working here in the copy so that I don't edit this document that you would be on. And essentially what this would do would be that this would give you a document that you would share in real time with your class. You would put student names here. So you would put their name for the groups that they are in. And then you would have your student names all throughout this document that goes all the way down. And then you would hyperlink here. So what I've done is, here's my calendar. I went ahead and set up different meets already. So if you don't know how to do that, you're going to create, you can do this in many ways, but one way is to create an event in your calendar so that you have access to it. Okay, so let's say this was my group 1 meet. You add conferencing. So my school has enabled Meet. And so under add conferencing, that is an option for us here. And that's how I have our meets. So I'm going to show you here under group 1 meet. So I've already made all of these. Once you've made it and you click save, you can copy it using this little clipboard feature here. And I'm going to copy that, go back to this document, and I'm going to hyperlink this meet for group 1. I'm going to do the same thing for groups 2 through 6, and I'm going to copy their specific meet link. So this is group 2's meet link. I'm going to go ahead and copy that in here. And Emma wrote about this, and I thought it was brilliant. So I just want to give her a shout out because this is hers and what she talks about in her blog post. And we started following it at my school, and it has been a huge success. And so this is group 3. So we would go through and I would copy each of these, and then we use these same meet links. We continue to use them for each of our groups. In my class. We don't share it out beyond my class. So I would have each of these, and then the beauty of this is that we have our main meet that we are in, I would also have a slides document. So this document here was a slides document that another teacher at my school used. And she had the different groups come in and they were putting in different pictures of how they were feeling that day to practice using this groups meet. And so you would have a slides document linked here that everyone would have access to in real time. And then each group would then go to their meet. And what's beautiful about this is that I would, on the main meet that we're in, I would mute, I would have the students all mute their microphones, and I would mute mine until I wanted to alert them to come back. And then I could pop in to any of these meets. As the teacher, I can be in multiple meets, and I could pop in to listen to what students were talking about, and then go back to the main meet when it was time after every group. That kind of interaction live during our meet sessions was something that was really, really useful, and that it gave students something to do in real time, that I would know if they were getting it. I think that's the piece that's a challenge when you move to a virtual system, is that if I'm in the classroom, students are telling me, oh, I don't understand that. Can you review this? Can you do that? And when you're in a live session and when it goes virtual, sometimes students are not as quick to type that or to put that into a chat. And so to give them opportunities where they can be doing something and I can quickly be alerted to if they're not understanding it, even if they're not vocalizing it, helps me to know how to help them. Some other pieces that if you, when you go back to this presentation, Lauren has given some great ideas for ways to do some check-ins, either at the start or throughout if you want to do some joy building with your students. These are all slides that you can make copies of and have interactive parts that you can then have your students fill out in real time. They don't have to necessarily be connected to content. She created ones that are really about helping build joy, as it says, and helping connect. So that's an option that's here for you. And then one of the last things that I wanted to show that has helped me in terms of interaction is showing people how to use a feature called Gmail templates, if you haven't used that. So Adrian, am I good to go to show that?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I do that I've realized as a teacher is that when I have gone live with my students, I've had great participation. Students are yearning for it. Families are yearning for it. But there are some students that, let's say the internet connection has gone down. We have some students where we are that live in the mountains and their internet is spotty, or they have, like in my family, I have 3 kids. So we're all trying to go live at the same time. And sometimes technology might not work the way that you want it to. As much as we want it to be perfect, it might not be. So I have to realize that sometimes a student might not be able to come live to my session. So the first thing is I always record it so that I can share it out. But the second is that I always do a reach out after. So I make sure to take roll, not to penalize in any way, but to alert me as the teacher to who do I need to reach out to ask if they're doing okay. And so that's what I use this feature for. And so I want to show you how to do it. Once you enable it, you have the option to then utilize the template. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So in your Google, in your Gmail, I should say. So in your Gmail, in order to enable templates, you're going to need to go here to settings. And then you're going to go click settings. And you're going to click on advanced. That's when I normally wake up. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so I go to advanced. And you'll see the second item down says templates. There's a lot of great features that you can look through, but today we're going to focus just on the templates feature. And I would click enable here. And once I've done that, I'll want to click save changes. So just one more time, that was under settings, advanced, enable, save changes. And once I've saved those changes, I can go back into my Gmail, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm gonna compose a message, and I'm gonna compose a message, and I actually, let's see if it's still here. Oh, I had a different one. So let me find it. I have it. I'll show you where it is. I had it just to show you the one that I use. I had it here. So I'm going to copy this. This is a template that I use in my classes when a student is absent. So I'll show you how to make it. So this is mine. So this is my own template, and I'll show you what it looks like after you make it a template. So I have kind of a script that I send out that I fill in once if a student is absent, and I make sure that I send it to both the parent and the student. But in order to create the template, you type what you want, and then you go down here to the 3 dots where it says more options, and you click templates. Now, I need to save this draft as a template. So I'm going to save it as a new template, and I'm going to call this absent student. Okay. And so this would become my template now. If I close this out and I want to write something to someone, I could go down here to more options, go to templates, and now I have a template that says absent student. I click it, and that template is here. So I then fill it in to make it the right thing for that particular class. So I might put, and I would send this to any of the students that were absent. Lead English 9.
Stephanie, this is the same as the canned responses before, right?
Yes. So this is, this then kind of filled that place of the canned responses for sure. That's a great question. And I use this all the time. And I would say one of the things I've come to learn is during this time of being remote, I always was using email, but I am using it so much more than I ever was before, because it is the only way, instead of students popping by my room and knocking on the door during a tutorial time or a lunch time or before or after school, they're sending me an email. So I need to be able to respond quick enough that they can stay on task to do their work. And that if parents are messaging, that I can do the same thing. So I found that having particular, if I find that I have particular responses, that I then start to save them as templates that I can then edit, and I can go back and make it feel correct for the situation, but that I'm not spending my time writing those out. Instead, I'm spending my time tailoring them to fit the particular person or situation. So that has been really, really helpful for me. And then the last piece that I wanted to share for today in the time that we have is I have come to learn the other most important thing, and people were telling me this at the start, and I thought, okay, I'll be fine. But we have to schedule breaks in both for our students and ourselves. My own students are in the 9th grade. They need stretch breaks. My kids, as I mentioned, my older 2 are in 4th and 3rd grade. Their teachers, after about 10 minutes, will say, okay, we need a stretch break. They'll have everybody stand up. They will lead them in a stretch, and then they'll sit back down. And I know my students need that as well. They need a mind break. They need a shift. So those check-ins, those moments of feeling connected, and then getting back into the work. I also use this, one of my fellow innovators, Luis, gave me this template that I am so grateful for. And I use this during my live sessions, or if I have a meet with staff or with students, and it's up, and it's an open meet, maybe for people to come in and ask questions. If it's my lunchtime, I'll leave it open, but I'll have this up for them. And so I'll have kind of a screen, a shared screen that would say, I'm having lunch, and I'll go do that, but they could leave questions in the chat. If it is up and running. But I force myself to go have lunch, because during this time, this crazy time, especially if you're someone who is very needed, like a teacher in your room or like the tech person at your school, you're going to be asked a lot of during this time, and you have to schedule breaks for yourself. And you have to learn to model that for your students too. I had a few more slides in here. Time-wise, I don't know what would be helpful,
Sure.
Adrian. Okay, this is more extra stuff. So
Wow.
if you are using Google Meet, there are 3 extensions I would highly recommend. And the 3 are Meet Attendance that fellow innovator Clay developed. It allows you in real time to take attendance. It opens a Google Sheet for you, and this will take you, if you click here during my presentation or in the presentation, it'll take you through a step-by-step guide for how to install it and use it, but it lets you take attendance for your Meet in real time. The other one is, if you're not already using Meet Grid, get on the bandwagon. Meet Grid is amazing. So this will take you to that extension. Meet Grid allows you to see all of the people that are in your session live. So instead of being limited to 4 people on the screen at once, you can see everyone that's there. I've been in a Meet with up to 60 something people and seen them all. And you can enable it to be that you're seeing only the people who have a camera on or not. You can see yourself in the grid or not, but there are some options there as well. And then the last one is Nod. So Nod is another extension, but it allows you, if you have your students have this Chrome extension as well, they can tell you using emojis, a thumbs up, they can put their hand up and alert you that they have a question without having to unmute themselves or type it in the chat. So those are 3 extensions if you're going to be going live that I would highly recommend downloading and adding to your Chrome extension bar. Okay, maybe should I come back to you, Adrian?
Okay.
Okay, all right.
That extension would really be helpful for the teachers. I think in the past few weeks, most of the teachers were asking, are there any form of attendance feature in the Google Meet, right? So I think that's a good add-on to your G Suite tool, such as Meet. So it's Meet Grid, Meet Attendance, and Meet Nod, right?
Yeah, and I use all 3 at the same time. The attendance feature, Clay has been amazing. So the attendance feature, if you have more than, I think it's 16, when you click on participants, you can't see all of the names at once. Mm-hmm. So in order to take attendance, you click participants and then you scroll down so that, and then once you scroll through the list of everyone that's there in real time, it then takes all of those names and puts them into the Google Sheet for you. Then you can click it. So if a student adds in, if they come in late, you then click participants again, and it'll take attendance one more time. But that has been, when I said that I email out students that aren't there live, mm-hmm. That's how I do it, is I have the Meet attendance, I take it, and then I look at, obviously, my roll sheet, and I see, oh, there were 3 students that were not in my Meet attendance, and that's who I email. I email them and their families to just check and make sure that they're okay.
Wow. Very, very, very useful for the teachers. Again, we have a lot of viewers right now. For the others who have questions, this is the right time to put your comments, to ask questions to Stephanie. But for now, I'll be showing also, if you would like to see and review the slide presentation of Stephanie, you can visit or access the link below, bit.ly/GEG Shift Mindset. So comments, everyone. If you have questions, let us know. We'll be glad to answer them. I'll be reading some of the comments earlier. Well, according to Sir Gary, Um, he said, very important to consider, simplify the lesson, right? So I'll add on to that as well for teachers also in the Philippines who are overwhelmed with what's their next step with going online is that you really have to simplify your actual lessons in your classrooms for you to be able to still deliver, because definitely there will be lots of subjects for for the students, and you want your students to be able to learn 24/7 on their laptops or on their mobile devices.
In addition to that, I would say, Adrian, if your students are asking questions about how to turn something in or how to do something that you've asked them to do, and all of their questions are on kind of the tech itself or what is limiting them from getting to the content, you're not actually talking about your content at that point. So you need to simplify both your lesson and how you present it in a way that they are able to take it in, because you're not there in real time to be able to go around and clear this up. So it's really important that your agendas are simplified, that they only have a few things on them, and then maybe they can click, depending on their age, they can click on it to get more details of those assignments. But you want to simplify your instructions, your lessons, and the tasks that you're asking them to do, and even the way that you ask them to do it. I think we can challenge ourselves and our students to be learning new. But if you ask them to learn too much new at one time, they're going to be trying to tackle that versus learning your content. So if your content is if the essentials of your content are what you want them to understand, it's okay to simplify it and maybe integrate one new piece of technology. And then the next week, another new piece and another new piece. But don't try to do it all at once, or it will overwhelm you and your students and their parents.
Another question from Miss Mina Sabado. When taking another attendance, does it overwrite the previous sheet?
No. So it makes a new column. It makes a new column every time you click attendance, and it has at the top of it has a timestamp, and then it also contains your Meet link. So Clay added those features recently, and they've been excellent. But it will just make a new column. It opens the doc automatically, so it'll just sit in your drive, and it's called Meet attendance. And so you'll I think it's called Meet. It's at least called Meet, if not Meet attendance. And then it just sits in your drive, but it'll open when you click that plus. It'll make a new one for each Meet that you are in, and then it makes a new column whenever you click participants in that same Meet, or in the same sheet, I should say.
There's another question from GFA SHS Inc. Is Google Meet free for G Suite for Education?
Right now, Google Meet is free for G Suite for Education, but it does need to be enabled by whoever is the overseeing your G Suite at your school.
The administrator.
Yeah.
Another question. Is there an add-on that creates breakout rooms?
Okay.
Or is there any?
I love that idea. I'm going to shout it loud to Clay, who's been coding lots of add-ons, but that would be an amazing add-on. I don't have one. So what I've done is that page that I shared with you, that Google doc that I shared with you, and then I use that same one each time. So I shared with you the template of the document, but once I link those Meet links, those 6 Meet links, I just use that every single time, and then I don't have to make it again. But I have not been alerted to any add-on, and I've been searching for all different add-ons, but that would be a great one. Great idea.
Another comment from Sir Gary. Great, so you know who is late and what time they get
Yeah.
in the meet.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that has been really helpful. And for me, the other piece that I mean, I'm this way in my own classroom too, but when a student comes in, yes, I would love if every student was there and there right away, but there's a lot going on right now. So one of the pieces, I mean, I didn't put this in, but your way of greeting your students, I think, is super important during this time. So whenever a student enters the meet, my first thing that I say is, "It is wonderful to see you. I miss you," right? It is not about saying you are 2 minutes late to this meet. Where have you been? Because we don't know what's going on the other end of their screen. So that is why I have somebody whose whole job it is to be a welcomer. And if I am in the middle of presenting, then someone else is welcoming them to the meet. But yes, it would alert me to if they were late. I would know what time they got there. I would know what part of it they missed. So when I'm sending things out, I might still send them the recording so that they have access to what it was that happened before they got there. All of those pieces are super important.
Okay, we have more questions to go. How do you deal with parents who try to join the class?
Ooh, that's interesting. I actually don't mind it, but I think I'm in high school. So now that students are home, like, you can't help it. They're in their homes. What I make sure to emphasize, right, is that I'm not asking the parents necessarily questions where they're interacting, but I am okay. Anything that I'm doing, I have to know that in this time that anybody that's in their household might be watching it. So I have to know that about the lessons that I'm giving. And I talk about parents as being additional resources, right? We're lucky if parents are there to help support their students in real time. But for my high school students, right, I want to make sure that they are doing their work, but it is wonderful if they have someone who can peer review or look at a paper with them in real time. But I talk through and I say, if you're asking someone in your household to look at it, these are the kinds of peer review questions that I would want them to be doing. And I talk to my students about, I don't want them doing your work for you. I want them to be there as another set of eyes, as another peer reviewer, as somebody who would ask you questions and help you get better. But if a parent walks by, just like any student, I would say, "Hi, Mrs. So-and-so," right? I make sure that I acknowledge that they're there and they feel connected. And I've received a lot of positive emails from families who have said, "Thank you for going live with students. They feel connected. Thanks for welcoming me when you've seen me in the background." Like, they like it. But I would make sure that the focus is on the student. So my first priority is them, and then knowing if they have a support system in their home with someone that's there in real time. Sometimes people have first responders in their home, so people aren't there, right? If their parent is a doctor or a nurse, or they're out, they don't have someone in real time. So if we do, I embrace it as another person that is there that could help. And I've received emails from families that have said, if you need extra support, if you need other parents to help you feel comfortable to go live during meets or to do breakout rooms, that I've had parents that have offered to even be in sessions to kind of sit there as like a chaperone in sessions if I have needed them. Like, parents have been wonderful in asking what can they do in real time to be helpful in a classroom. And I think if you want to have jobs for parents, those are things that you if you have people offering to help, I would take it. But just know that they're not the teacher. So the things that you would give them would kind of be like, if I would think in an elementary classroom when you have a parent volunteer, right? Cutting up things that you need in real time, right? The stuff that you can task out. Why not, right? Why not have additional hands, eyes? But remember that you are still the teacher.
Wow. We have lots of questions coming up.
Yeah.
From Gertrude Corpus, thank you very much for watching us since day one. Thank you very much. Do you conduct revalidator face-to-face oral examination after the course as part of the requirement for distance education?
Okay, so at my school, we have talked about kind of our move to distance learning in phases. So right now, as a district, we're in phase 1. Phase 2 is coming up, and that's where we know that teachers are going to be asking about exams and how do we then test or understand what students are learning. And our district, what we have started to recommend is that teachers shift their mindset in how we conduct formative assessment and summative assessment. And so what I have come to realize is that there are going to be some things for which I will not be able to give a test. And and my subject is English, so I can say this from my perspective, right? Like, I'm always giving papers, but I am giving advice as a teacher on special assignment. I work with all of the departments. So specifically, our math department has come to me and asked, what should we do? How do we know that a student understands the content? And how do we test it? Because they can look anything up. Like, that's the reality. They can look anything up. So what we have started to do, just like this whole shift, the reason I called this a shift in mindset is I have had to shift my mindset and help teachers shift their mindset around what does it mean to give an exam. So at our school, that has shifted in math. The teachers who are wanting to really test an understanding of a concept have moved. They started to use Flipgrid, and they give a question, and then the students have to record themselves. They can't see the other students' recordings. They mute that, or they block it. And students then post themselves walking through the steps of the math concept or problem that they were given. And then the teacher uses that as the face-to-face oral examination. And then they understand what is it that this student is or is not understanding. Yes, a student could prepare for it, but they're given that question right before they have to do the Flipgrid. So I think part of it is that our teachers, and that's been a huge shift, right? They have all these tests already prepared. How do you move from having something that's already prepared to maybe pulling out the most essential questions of it and asking students then to do it in an oral examination? You will not be able to give a 100-question test in this manner, right? It's picking out the 3 questions that have the most concepts within them, or letting students from a choice board pick the 3 that they want to talk about, something like that. So we've just had to shift our mindset to how we conduct those, if that helps you. And then for us, it's not necessarily a requirement, but for each of the particular subject matters, they've had to decide what are the most essential things that for the next grade level or next course in the sequence, those teachers would want them to know, and that's what they're including in their, quote, exams.
Follow-up question from Margaret. How about evaluation? How are evaluations done in this setup?
So I think that's what I was just reviewing, that we've moved more to doing Flipgrid has been popular for that at my school. We've also done, some teachers will do other kinds of quizzes. So they'll use in real time, maybe during a presentation, they'll use a Quizlet or a Kahoot to get real-time information about their classes and know what's going on. We've had other teachers use Google Forms to conduct a quiz of students. But I think whatever you're doing, you do have to keep in mind that students have access to everything. And so I think what we have to do is rethink the kinds of questions that we ask them to not be things that can be looked up. So what I would call those would be level 1 questions that can easily be looked up, right? The name of somebody in a book, very quick answers. And instead, you need to be asking them more conceptual questions that are bigger, that bring in multiple steps that they then would have to walk through. So it's not something that they could look up. So for my class, that might be writing.
A follow-up question from Margaret as well. Given this shift in the idea of evaluation, have you done any shifts in the grading system as well?
this is a huge question happening here in the United States right now. There have been a lot of schools, mine not yet, but it doesn't mean it won't ever. But there are schools and colleges that have moved to pass-fail during this time. And it is something that is up for discussion at our school. We don't know that we would necessarily move there. And when we've talked about it, it might be something that happens possibly for seniors, but I don't want to put it out there because it isn't a thing that for my district has happened. So please, if anybody's watching from my school, we haven't shifted there. But that has been a talk here in the US for a lot of schools, that they've shifted to pass fail or credit, no credit, that if they do a certain number of the things that you've asked of them, or they're making progress and you know that for the most part they understand the concepts, that they pass. Otherwise, then they might be given a certain amount of time then to recoup. But I do think so much of what we're doing right now has to be done with a lens of understanding. Like it is a monumental shift for all of us, for teachers, for students, for families. There are people that are displaced. There are people that are out of work. There are people that don't have access. And so in my mind, when it comes to grades, we just have to be really, really thoughtful and understanding. And so for me, if I'm giving something, I would say one of the best things that I have seen that teachers have talked about for schools where you still are doing grades is maybe the idea that wherever you were, if you're still in the middle of your semester like we are, wherever you were at the start of that semester, you can't go below that. That all these things that you're doing are there to help your grade. But if you are in the Philippines or you're about to start, I might think about, what is it that is practical? And in my class anyway, one of the things that has helped me, if you are using points and you are doing grades, is that at the start, what I do at the start of a course is worth fewer points than what we're doing at the end. So that's a shift in practice that I have always done. But as students grow and learn more, I make things worth more. So that if at the start what they were getting held up in might be the process, that those things aren't holding them back from doing well in my class. And then as we move forward, it becomes more and more points, so that as they get better in just productivity of my class, their grade can also improve.
Wow. Thank you very much, Steph. We're very much thankful to have you as our speaker. We have a lot of audience right now, and for those people who would like to ask more questions, you can leave your questions at the comment box below. I'll be flashing again the slide of Stephanie if you want to review it, to go over with it again. It's bit.ly/GG shift mindset. And for the other one, if you're concerned with having your own Google for Education accounts for your school, you can email education@qsr.com. For those schools in the Philippines, people watching right now in the Philippines, you can email education@qsr.com if you're interested to get Google for Education accounts for your school, for your teachers. Again, last word, Stephanie, before we end this program.
Thank you for having me. I saw there was a question about how our teachers' performance is evaluated. And I just wanted to share one thing that I think has been so helpful. My role is twofold at my school. So I'm a teacher on special assignment, and I also am teaching 2 classes and chairing a department. So in my teacher on special assignment role, I'm helping others integrate technology into their classroom. And what I have done is I have done exactly what the administrators do, which is offer to sit in on courses with teachers in real time. So our administrators have put that out there, and they go in and see all of our digital classroom spaces, and they help to provide some feedback around if some of our messaging might not be as clear or as coherent. I've started to be sharing with teachers some templates for the way that they set up their classroom so that things are streamlined and students know to go to the same place for the same information. And so those are the pieces that I would say our administrators are doing in terms of evaluation. It's more like a feedback time because we're all in a time of growth. And so I sit in real time. If you have other people that are doing tech at your school, I would ask for this. But when a teacher, if they're nervous to go live with their students or to try one of these things, like one of the teachers at my school, Kathy, when she went to do those live breakout rooms for the first time, I was in her meet with her and I helped her in real time do that. She did it, and then I was there if there were any issues, and there weren't, but I was there just to cheer her on. And I would say those are pieces that help to not be alone, maybe to ask another teacher to be in your live meet with you if you're nervous about something, if it can't be an administrator that's there. But that way, it's like getting to have another person in your classroom to help you is a wonderful way to help calm fears.
Wow. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for all the inputs for tonight. Thank you for generously sharing your experience and your best practices to all the listeners, to all the viewers tonight. But again, we still have one more session tomorrow for all our viewers. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to and corporation for tomorrow's or last webinar for this series. Again, we would to thank everybody who's here and stay safe and good night. Again, this is Adrian and Stephanie. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having
Good
me.
night.
Thank you so much. Good night.